We only have so much time and energy and mental focus. And every ounce of energy that you are spending in the vibration of regret is energy wasted, drained from your life force energy. And I say wasted and drained because I want to highlight the fact that the energy of regret does not serve a function other than suffering. The energy of having negative emotions with regard to a past experience in a way that we hold a belief that if things were different, the results and the outcomes would be better for us is purely a waste of time and energy, because this is just a story. It's a belief in our mind about something that could have been different in the past. And this is completely fruitless and without function other than your suffering, because we can't change what's happened in the past. Now, sure, conflict resolution exists, and we're going to talk about that. But simply harboring regret is a complete energy drain. And again, you only have a certain amount of energy, so you want to be very efficient with that energy. You want your energy contributed to your life in a productive way, in a way that is going to promote your well-being rather than your suffering. And that is what happens when we ruminate on our regrets, when we hold on to regrets, hold on to situations in the past that we feel could have been different to yield more favorable outcomes. All that happens is we contribute to our own suffering. Now, before we discuss how you can release the attachment you might have to any single one of your regrets, I want to make a distinction between simply holding on to a regret and learning from a mistake. Now, if you spend energy thinking about past mistakes, things that you maybe would have done differently had you had the foresight that you do now, that is one thing. That is different from holding on to a regret, because that is constructive. It's productive to think about how you went wrong in the past and how you would act differently in the future, because that has a tangible outcome. That actually serves a productive function. I made this mistake, and this is how I will do it differently if the opportunity arises again. That serves you in a productive way. What is also different from regret is processing the initial emotional response that may arise in response to something that you've done in the past. Processing the negative emotions that arise from a mistake that you perceived that you made is very different from holding on to a regret. In fact, it's actually part of what's going to help you not hold on to the regret. So now we're going to talk about that, how to release any emotional attachment that you have to past situations. Because like I said, this is just draining you of your energy. It's contributing to your everyday suffering, and that's not great for anyone. So now we're going to talk about how to release that. So it's very natural if we make a mistake, if something happens where we, initially have some regret about what we did, then it is very natural to have some adverse emotions arise. But it's important that you process those emotions. Don't try to push them away. Feel them, experience them, allow them to be felt so that you can then let them go. Because if you just resist the painful emotions that are arising, you're just contributing to suffering. What you resist will persist. And the more we try to push away pain that's arising in the form of felt emotions, the more we're going to suffer down the line. And that's a distinction between pain and suffering. You can see my last video titled "Most Suffering is Caused by Resistance" for more on that topic. So I'm not trying to tell you that you should be inauthentic about the way you feel. You may initially be harboring some regret or emotions that are associated with regret at first. And if you feel those emotions, be true to yourself about the fact that they're there. Allow yourself to feel them, and that is what's going to actually help you release them and not hold on to them and hold on to regrets moving forward. And that's a very important part of this, right? Accepting the things that we cannot change. Now, there's a ending to a prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And if you approach any regret you have with those principles in mind, it's going to take you a very long way, because sometimes we're harboring some negative emotions. We feel that there was something that didn't have closure, like something that happened in the past, and maybe there's actually ways that we can change it. So that's another way that you can release this attachment that you have to this regret, is actually see if you can go about making change. So we talked about accepting the things you cannot change, right? Recognize if it's something that can't be changed, maybe it was an opportunity that came and went, you can't take it again, then you're gonna have to accept that you cannot change it, process the emotions involved, and move on. If it's something that you can change, ponder that. Ask yourself what you can do to go about changing it. Maybe you regret not taking an opportunity, but the opportunity is actually still there. And some time has went by and you think to yourself, I really should have taken it. It was just fear that was holding me back. Perhaps it's not too late. And this is where the courage to change the things that you can comes into play. So that's the next big way that you can release these attachments that you have to this regret, is actually knowing that you can make a change and having the courage to make that change. Or maybe the regret involves a relationship that ended without resolution. So you have the courage to try to give some closure, give some resolve, have some more communication with that person who the relationship ended in a rocky way with. And maybe you try, you put your best foot forward, you apologize, or whatever the context may warrant, and the other person kind of just brushes you off. Well, at least you tried. And now you're moving on to the phase where you need to accept the thing that you cannot change. And the third part of this is the wisdom to know the difference. Now, this just comes from being honest with yourself, accepting the truth. Can you change it? Right? Sometimes maybe you're clinging on to the regret so much you think, oh, maybe I could change it. But in reality, you just need to accept the past and move on. Or maybe you're thinking, oh, I just need to accept it and move on. But in reality, there's unresolved conflict that can still be resolved. And if you don't admit the truth to yourself or give yourself enough time to reflect on what the appropriate course of action is, you might have a hard time moving on from that thing that you were holding on to. Because deep down, maybe there was still a course of action that you could take to find resolution. So it's important to have the wisdom to know the difference between accepting the things that you can't change and having the courage to change the things that you can. So that's something to chew on there, something to contemplate with regards to any given regret that you're holding on to. Guys, I hope this video helps you process any regrets that you have and really reframes your paradigm surrounding regrets. Like sometimes I'll hear people say, oh, I really regret that. And that, to me, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you be holding on to something so tightly and wishing different on the past? Like, you're just in resistance to reality at that point. It happened. Don't be in resistance to the past. Like we've said, sometimes some hard, difficult emotions are going to arise because of the past, but you can process those. Being in resistance and having a regret to something that happened in the past is just draining your energy and contributing to your suffering. It does not serve a function other than your own suffering. So I really hope that this video has helped you reframe the way that you think about the nature of regrets and gave you some tools to process those regrets and release the attachment that you have to them. That's it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for more content.